Oh well, if you're ready to laugh, let's move on to my pick, which is so yeah. Given that our first three films deal with heavy subject matter, I wanted to lighten the mood by choosing a comedy. I did some searching online, and the 2004 film Day of the Wacko was consistently recommended. So the film follows a middle-aged language teacher named Adas who suffers from OCD and depression. Adas seems to hate everyone, dreams of being able to restart his life from scratch, and is always trying to write poetry, but can't help being distracted by other people and his own pedantic tendencies. Um, and I have to admit, I was looking forward to a comedy, but what I ended up getting was a film that actually rivals the misanthropy, nihilism, and psychological torment of The Painted Bird, albeit with much lower stakes. I think the film is interesting and a vivid portrait of OCD and perhaps an insight into Polish neuroses, but unfortunately, I found myself cringing more than laughing. The film reminded me of the Argentine film Wild Tales, which we discussed last episode, in that it shows the sort of animalistic carnage simmering below the surface of everyday people. However, I think because Adas is so unsympathetic and the triggers of his rage so innocuous, I found very little vicarious enjoyment in his heated and often bigoted outbursts. Frankly, yeah, the guy is just an asshole. The highlight of the film was when he takes a train ride and keeps having to change seat because he doesn't like the person he's sitting next to. He also can't figure out how to hold the toilet seat up as he's urinating and ends up urinating all over himself. And I found his exasperation during these scenes very well acted and amusing. But other than that, yeah, it was a bit of a disappointment for me. But what did you guys think of Day of the Wacko?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Duncan. This film was not for me. I didn't particularly like it outside of a few individual scenes or whatever. I guess the one thing that did resonate that I found kind of funny is trying to adjust his pants in such the perfect way to like sit down comfortably on the couch. Like I got that. that one hit me. But beyond that, it's not really my style of humor. And so yeah, so there are only like probably a few rare parts where I laughed. And there was, I don't know, there's some interesting kind of beauty at the end. But other than that, it wasn't something I resonated with, and yeah, the heavy use of voiceover, I tend to not go for that type of stuff.
I thought it was fun, I guess, in a black comedy Coen Brothers sort of way. I sort of burn after reading-esque of just awful characters making self-destructive decisions, and it's certainly very cringeworthy. And but I don't know, I enjoyed it, I guess. I really like the perception filter Ada seems to have for contemporary politics, where the platitudes of both presumably left-wing and right-wing politicians are completely interchangeable, and it just sort of blends together for him.
Yeah, I thought that was a funny scene too, where the word, like, they weren't even actually saying anything coherent. They were just repeating particular words. It was more about how they were saying it, which seemed to get a reaction from the audience, which is probably a astute observation of contemporary politics. Bina, you said on the forums that you didn't laugh in the first 20 minutes. Did you laugh any time after that?
Yeah, I did not find this funny. I found it just really irritating and just like exasperating. And I wonder if comedy is the one genre that is most specific to local moras. Like, there are specific strains of national senses of humor or cultural norms, and it's just something I'm not getting. I find that a lot, actually. I found that a little bit with Wild Tales. Like, some of it, I just didn't get why that was blackly funny. Maybe I just don't have a good sense of humor. But I know that there are certain brands of British humor that people find very challenging. I know a lot of people find that sort of Ricky Gervais insult humor, which I think is hilarious. It's just insulting. It's not funny. So I just wonder if maybe the movie Passport is most stretched when it comes to specific comedy. But I was reading a lot about this director, and apparently his films are wildly successful, and this is part of an ongoing series with this protagonist as his lead. So clearly this is resonating with Polish people. But it was not for me.
That is a good point. Like, I feel like most of the films that I've seen from other countries are, dramas. I don't think I've seen that many comedies to know if they worked on me. Like, I'm trying to think of any non-English language comedies that I really enjoy, but nothing's coming to mind. I'll have a think. But that may be an issue for comedies, that they're the really good comedies are good because they're so regionally or locally specific that may just not translate to other countries.
I think there's also an issue about how foreign or world cinema is curated and how we receive it. So, Matt, I think, is the classic person. He's a bit like me. Like, normally I'll hear of a foreign film because it was nominated for a Best Foreign Language Oscar. It kind of broke out in some way. Mm-hmm. And we all know that awards shows are very tilted towards drama and big performances and serious films, right? And actually comedy's just as hard, if not harder, than straight drama. And they're just disproportionately awarded seriously. They tend to be more commercial. And so I think we're probably not seeing as much comedic world cinema, and probably haven't therefore flexed our muscles in appreciating and getting to know it as much as we have with the sort of the serious movies. And it's interesting, right? In the first few episodes that we've done so far of Movie Passport, we've all veered towards the quite serious dramas because it's typically just what we get, and what becomes commercial in our countries. So there's probably something to that too.
It's strange though, because there's definitely like a subgenre of neurotic comedy in America and Britain. Like, I guess I'm thinking of like Woody Allen or The Office or Curb Your Enthusiasm, where, like, I feel like Ada, he's similar to a lot of the protagonists of other really successful English language comedies, but it just didn't quite connect. I think maybe just because there's just nothing sympathetic about him, maybe, or he's just too off-putting at times, or too mopey and depressing. I don't know. But I agree with you, Matt. There were a few sort of moments of his OCD that I did kind of not sympathize with, but I suddenly became aware of similar weird things that I do, like when he's pulling up his pants. I do a weird thing where I like, whenever I put a jumper over me and there's a t-shirt underneath, I have to like pull my arms in and then pull the t-shirt sleeves out because I don't want them bunched up around my shoulders. So I don't know. I kind of like the specificity of a lot of his pedantry.
One thing I did find really valuable in this film is just because it's just set in contemporary normal Poland, right? Sort of working middle class Poland, I guess. And I think as visitors to Poland, you can see a certain side of it. Warsaw, having been 80 to 90% razed in World War II, has been rebuilt in a kind of Central Eastern European Dubai style, right? With shiny, shiny hotels and shiny, shiny shopping malls with 4DX cinemas. And there is something just socially valuable, I think, in just saying, okay, this is what a normal guy's apartment's like, and this is how he goes on a bus and a train. It was, I found it kind of interesting from that perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. And I guess the three movies that we have watched have been these big sort of historical epics, whereas this, it's just the life of an everyday person living in contemporary Poland. I guess I didn't have a heap of questions about this movie. I was kind of curious about what you guys made of the ending, where he sort of, I don't know, he seems to start hallucinating after coming back from the beach, or at the beach, and then coming home, and then has this weird sex dream, and then imagines that he's going to die, and or that he has no, I don't even know what. He just starts speaking poetry, and then the movie ends. Do you guys have any read on the ending of the film?
I had no idea what to make of that.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same.
Yeah.
Besides the fact that he broke through and found the verse he'd been trying to, write for the entire movie. But
I like that. Yeah.
But beyond that, I don't know.
I guess it speaks to some the tragedy of wasted potential, where he seems to have this anagnorisis of how I want to change, or I'm so miserable, but at the end it's just like I'm stuck as who I am. I've wasted
That's okay, because then we get a sequel in the ever-increasing franchise. I do think it speaks to a slightly miserablest strain in Polish cinema, I have to say. If this is like their top-grossing commercial comedy franchise, if this is their equivalent of, I don't know what it would be ours, but it's kind of revealing.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned on the forums, like, at least 3 of these films, even Cold War, you could argue, are basically just these psychological descents into madness and infernal torture. Ironically, the Painted Bird probably has the most hopeful ending. But
Yeah.
but
Although, let's say it's not the same as the book. I wonder if he felt he had to do that for modern audiences, like they just wouldn't take the bleak ending.
possibly, yeah. But that, yeah, I like that idea of just all the wasted potential of Ada and him constantly trying to like map or retrace the steps of his life and figure out where he went wrong and how he could make things right, but just not being able to do any of that because of his neuroses, like even having fantasies about reconnecting with his long lost love and immediately trying to ditch her even in the fantasy. I thought was funny. But again, it kind of, in this morbid way, it makes me flash back to Canal and this idea of all these potential tunnels to freedom, and they're all dead ends. There's something very nihilistic about all of these movies. But c'est la vie. That's a Polish saying. All right, I think that probably brings us to the end, unless there's any final thoughts on Day of the Wacko.
One of the YouTube comments on the video you linked claimed this movie was basically The Joker, but Polish, and I thought that was very amusing about how the crushing weight of mediocrity and modernity can just sort of drive you insane. So I thought I'd throw that out there.
That is good. Was that? I tried to find that comment. Was it in Polish? Or was it in English?
It was in English.
Because most of the comments seem to be in Polish. Okay, I must have missed it.